Minnesota has a $1.6 billion budget surplus.
That is higher than expected because state economists think that tax revenues will grow. That had Joan from St. Paul wondering, how did we get a surplus? That's a good question for Heather Brown.
This budget forecast is
it's a good news, the surplus.
more very good economic news for Minnesota.
Makes it easier to balance the budget.
Both sides agree $1.6 billion in the black is better than the alternative.
You'd rather be in a surplus than a deficit.
Craig Waldron teaches local government at Hamlin.
What exactly is a surplus?
It's actually a projection at this point in time.
Every November and February, the state's budget office comes out with a budget forecast. The past 8 have shown a surplus after 5 years of deficits or zero balance.
We've been on a roller coaster ride.
Minnesota has a surplus because it expects to take in more tax money over the next 2 years compared to what it needs to pay for state programs.
Right now, they're just a snapshot in time. And that's why you have to be really careful, both in terms of what's the Trump administration going to do, what's going to happen in the national economy, and what's going to happen in Minnesota.
But why a surplus now? Well, some of it depends on who you ask. Is it good budgeting?
Due to our sound fiscal management.
Is it overtaxing?
Remember that a surplus is we've collected more money than we need from Minnesotans.
Or is it because more people working means more tax revenue?
Where's this money coming from?
This is based on a really good, or the projection of a really good economy right now.
You might also remember the governor and legislature couldn't agree on a budget last spring and didn't spend the money, so some of it carried over.
Are they required to spend
No,
the amount of money we have?
they're not required to spend it. It can go into new programs. It can go into tax reductions, and there's discussion that putting a good piece of it in the SOC, or the classic rainy day funds.
Heather Brown, WCCO 4 News.
DFL Governor Mark Dayton urged caution and doesn't want the money to be spent because of uncertainty in Washington. Republicans have suggested but not yet proposed some kind of tax cut and a transportation package. If you have a good question for Heather, please email it by going to WCCO.com/links.